So do you draw your well, you obviously then don't draw your inspirations from other artists. It's mostly from, I guess, your surroundings?
Well, no, it's definitely from other artists, but it's not necessarily new artists. Like, like Natural Selections, I was listening to, like, tons of, like, late 60s and early 70s Brazilian music, and Argentine pop music, and just, like, lots of weird, obscure, like, prog stuff, like, that Finnish prog band, you know what I mean? Like lots of filthy old baby boomer era music. Like I don't know. There was something in the water in the late '60s or early '70s where like even the stuff that sounded horrible when I was a kid sounds good now. There's just like maybe it's like just the utter humanity of it. The lack of quantization and pitch correction and all the things that.
It kind of draws a parallel between when you were getting started, how record labels would be more inclined to either sign something goofy or just the availability of recording studios to record something goofy and someone having enough money to put it on wax. That kind of is a parallel to what you were doing, how the record company was so pumped up to sign this crazy noise band.
Everybody thought they might get the next Nirvana, so there were, the likes of us and like Mercury Rev and bands like that were able to get big dough, for making completely uncommercial records, That was a good ride there for a while.
Oh yeah, I mean it sent you everywhere.
The late '60s, where there's just this glut of extremely weird records on all the major labels from that time because they were throwing anything at the wall to see if it stuck. And that's just a glorious time to be an artist,
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever see that again, just because the music as a physical commodity is on the way out, I suppose. And believe me, as somebody who grew up worshiping physical objects of music, that's I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to swallow, but you also can't fight it. So, and I don't. I love music so much that I'll do it whether there's money or not, and I'll do it whether there's an object or not, because the music itself is what I love. So, I mean, I'll love music if it's just on a little chip that's implanted under the skin. You know what I mean? Wherever it's headed, it's just ever smaller. It's just not. Music is an ephemeral thing. It's not. It doesn't necessarily have to be bound to a physical object. So I don't know. I'm willing to follow music wherever it goes.
Well, all the young hipster kids like the vinyl records now, so maybe there is hope.
Right, and I'm perfectly happy to exploit that because I love making records, and I love having an excuse for my hipster indie label to make these vinyl records.
Right.
To satisfy that great, I think in that format, the 20 minutes and then a break and then another 20 minutes. I mean, to me, that's the perfect form. So, now they're into cassettes too, which I just find completely ridiculous. But
really,
yeah,
that just doesn't make any sense. I mean, going back to vinyl makes sense because it sounds good, but cassette, what the hell?
Well, it's a quaint.
It has its own sound.
I suppose.
How did you get involved with DangerousMinds.net?
A mutual friend of mine and Richard Metzger started Dangerous Minds, and we had a mutual friend who introduced us pretty much simultaneously with Richard starting the blog, and he was just sniffing around for possible contributors, and we met and hit it off, and I just kept doing it. To me, it's how I make up for not touring. It's how I get to keep my presence out there. And I'm really proud of what they do politically. It's a vehemently left wing, basically socialist bent organization, and I'm happy to be part of something that puts that kind of viewpoint out there in front of people. The larger our audience gets, I feel like we're a force for good. And and it really can be anything. It's really just like a band of people who are doing like what anybody with a Facebook account would do. We're just sharing links. We're like a band, that shares links rather than puts records out. There's something about this combination of like 6 or 7 people all sharing links that is drawing people in. We're getting 160 to 170,000 unique hits a day.
Wow.
Yeah, and still not making any dough, which is like a total. If there's any clearer indictment of the fact that it's impossible to make money on the internet, we're it. Because with that kind of traffic and we're still not making any money, I mean, pause to think.
Exactly. Do you like writing and like doing the podcast and stuff like that?
Yeah. The podcast is good for getting out my frustrated DJ tendencies and inviting other interesting people to do it. Yeah, and I do like writing. It's something I can do. Dangerous Minds is the fan part of my personality. It's not the artist part of me. It's the fan of things that has never really had any expression before outside of just my personal life. And I don't know. Richard saw that as something I could contribute as a fan. Which is interesting. I don't know. It's a turn I wouldn't have expected, but it does the job of keeping my name out there and helps promote my music also.
And that's what really matters.
Instead of touring, I blog for Dangerous Minds, and I can get my kid to school and back and do all that at the same time.
So it's mostly just doing everything from home.
Yes, indeed.
Do you get out much?
Sure. I live in Los Angeles. There's like lots of great stuff to do here.
Well, that must be fun.
It's okay. It's all right. But it's the path I've chosen. It seems to work for me.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Brad Lehner, Medicine, solo work, dangerousminds.net. Thank you for being on the show.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.